Hello all, welcome back. In this session, we are going to learn the most important hook in React.js, that is useRef. Okay, so far we have learned use state, use effect, use context, use reducer, and context API and React router DOM, and we have done a simple project. Okay, now we are going to enter into again our React.js basics. Okay, what is useRef and why it is really important for us? Okay, let's take some simple examples and so that it is easy. Okay, now I'm just creating a simple counter. Okay, I think we have created lots of counters in this project. Okay, let me create another one like counter x or y. So counter y dot jsx. Okay, I'm just creating a simple one that is counter y. A lot of counters are there, that's why I just given a different name. And export default counter y. So just return. Yeah, this very important hook. I'm just putting like different tag count symbol. So let me import this one into app.js. So it's better to close all other stuff. I'm just importing. I don't worry about all these things because we did a lot of things in last few days. I will clean up the things at least for next session. Put the components and that is the counter y. Suppose if you didn't create any counter, just go with a simple name that is counter. So I'm just placing this counter here. Okay. We should have a div right. We can't return more than one element. Okay, fine. This is the simple stuff. So yeah, hello, and this is the count, and we should able to display the count. So if you want to, suppose if you want to focus on the just now focus on the count part. So if you want to display the count, like if you want to click a button, if you want to do increment or decrement, whatever it is, or you can put a timer, okay, to increment every 10 seconds like that. Okay, let's do that. Okay, then we can understand the difference between. So for that, I'm just putting like constant. I'm just taking the use state because I want to store the count details there. Okay, just count, comma, set count, comma, set count. So initially the value is 0, and what we need to implement. So by default the count value is 0. So just display the count here, and we need to set one timer so that it should increment that count every after 10 seconds. So for that, hopefully you should know that. So if you want to set timer, it's better to the one just tell me where we need to set the timer.
Set timer.
Hmm.
We need to use effect.
Okay, good. I hope you're doing some practice. Okay, just go use effect. If you don't know what is use effect, please go back and learn. Okay, so if someone who is watching this video randomly, okay, use effect because if you want to interact with external API, or if you want to send a request to the server and get some details, okay, we are going to do that logic and use effect. But here we should set that set timer. Okay, that is also web API, right? The timers are available in a browser API. That is not part of the React. Okay, that is the part of a browser. So if you want to use that, it's better to go with the use effect. So here this is a simple syntax, and even if you want to clean up function, we can implement that one as well. So for cleanup function, hopefully you know what is this cleanup function. right? So let's add first of all create a timer. Okay, set. It's better to go with a interval because we should increase the count every after 10 seconds. Okay, set interval, and we can pass one callback function, and you can mention some interval. Suppose 1000 milliseconds. Okay. So what I need to do? Okay, what we need to do. So once you set the timer, this timer should update the count. It should increase increment count by 1. So what you can do, the set count simply just put count plus 1. That's it. Or you should write count arrow count plus 1. So hopefully you remember why we are doing that. Okay, if you have one set count, no problem. Suppose if you are batching, if you are doing set count 2 or 3 times in one button click or one interval, it's better to go with this syntax because it will take the previous count and it will increase. Okay, I hope we have covered all these things. Okay, set count. Okay, now tell me, suppose we should remember that whenever we set the interval or something, it will return some id. So whether we need to store that in another state or how to manage. Got it? I hope you know, right? Whenever you set the timer in the browser, whenever you set the timer in the browser, that is a JavaScript basics. Okay, whenever you set the timer will return one ID. Okay, you can say that is a timer ID, whatever it is. It will return one timer ID. So where to store that timer ID? Okay, I'm giving you three options. One is local variable, simple JavaScript variable, or state. State means like that you can create another state, and how you are storing the count. You can store that set interval also because it will return some value. So whenever you invoke set interval, it will return some value. Because where I need to store this one, or just tell me whether we need to store in a local variable or state.
Local variable logo.
Okay, why not in state?
We should not mute it state.
Okay, even though you just save it and don't mutate it, what's the problem? So I'm just taking constant timer ID, set timer ID, okay, use state. Okay, by default we don't have any value, that's why I can put null. And here we can do what we can do. Suppose we can do like that because it is going to return the timer ID, right? So set timer ID, and we can put that right. Or you can store in local variable and you can set it whatever it is. If you have confusion for this, okay, what you can do is var timer ID and store like this, and once you got the details and you can put set timer ID, timer ID. Okay, what you said, okay, you said you can store in local variable, but what is the problem if you store that in a state? Why you prefer to store in a local variable? That is very important.
If we store in state, it will re-render.
Good. That's a good point. Yes,
Yeah,
because if you see, whenever you update the state, what will happen? When if you do simple change, first time it will be there, and whenever you do set state, it will render one more time. Whenever you set the state again, it will render one more time. Okay, here the count, whenever you do change the count, yes, we should re-render it. That is very important because you should display the latest value, right? But for the timer we don't need to store in the state. That's unnecessary because whenever you update the set timer id, it will trigger another re-render. That is not required for us. So that is not required for us. So in this situation, the storing the timer id in the state is a wrong option, because that is unnecessary. Okay, you can store it, but unnecessarily it will call the re-render, and there is no use to store timers in the state. That's why we are not going to prefer. So the state is very very important, very very important, because if whenever the value is changing and if you want to re-render, because automatically it will re-render and it will display the latest value. So in that situation only we should go for a state. Otherwise, okay, we can go with a local variable. Let's see whether it will work or not with local variable. So then we can come back to the ref. Okay, then we can come back to the ref. So this is the timer id, and once it is going to unmount, what we need to do, we need to clear interval, right, Varun? Everyone who are watching this video,
Yeah, Raghu.
yeah, what is the syntax is correct, or why it is showing error?
We need to write return there, Raghu. Return we have not written.
Yes, yes, yes. Doing practice for few days. I forget. Okay, set interval, a clear interval, and we need to pass this timer id, right? So anyway, we are not using the state. Let's see whether it will work properly or not with the local variable. Local variable means just a JavaScript variable. There is no relation to the React.js now. Just stored in a local variable. This is the use effect. Let me format it better. Save it. That's it. So we can access this timer ID from this place. So hopefully it will work. Let's see whether it is working or not. 1000 milliseconds. Mhm. What? Why we went to PLP? Okay, it is working. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you even if you want to stop that count, if you want to clear the interval on click or something, so you can write some event and like that, right? So if you see, first of all, understood. So if you see, we have a count, and if you set the interval, it is keep on incrementing. It is keep on incrementing. Okay. So I want to add a button here. If I click on that button, we should clear the interval. Okay. How to achieve that? How to achieve that? Let me add the button. Button clear interval. Okay. The logic is clear interval, and I'm just writing on click event, and okay, we can go with the method on clear interval. On clear interval. So I'm just adding another method. Is constant, right? So but here, yes, we can do clear interval, but is it possible to access that one? Because we are not able to access this timer id which you are storing inside the use effect. So what we need to do, Varun, now, if I want to access this timer id now in clear interval, is there any shortcut?
I think we can use another state, I guess.
No, already we have discussed. There
Yeah,
is,
it will re-render.
yeah,
But
it will render. That's why it is a wrong choice. So just think in simple JavaScript. This timer is local to this use effect. That's why we can't access that timer ID from another function. Okay.
so, so we are setting the interval count. So we can give a tier interval as count to 0, right? Tier interval count we can give Naragu.
Clear interval.
Count. It will go back to 0 again. In
No,
dynamic
this is the
pivot.
timer ID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we need ID, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, this is fantastic. So what I did, okay, observe carefully what I tried. Okay, what I tried. Because this timer ID is local to use effect, right? This timer ID is local to use effect. So what I tried, okay, let's make it to global scope. Okay, like at least this component scope. I'm just putting it as a initially it is null. Okay, and whenever we execute a use effect, we need to set the timer, right? Set a timer. Okay, sometimes okay you can store some values in the local variable, but there is one another problem with the local variables. So if you see, it's clearly showing some error. Warning. What is this? Varun, can you read it?
Assignments to the timer ready variable from inside the React hook effect will be lost after each render. To receive the value over time, store it in a useRef hook and keep the mutable value in dot current property. Okay.
Otherwise,
Otherwise, you can move this variable directly inside use effect.
okay. He's saying that, okay, suppose if you can handle things, he's saying that move this to use effect. I don't have any problem. But we have a problem that whenever I click on a button, I'm not able to access the timer ID without, if you don't know what is the timer ID, it's impossible to clear that interval. Okay. And for that, I'm just trying to move it outside like scope. So at the time, it is giving a warning. It is giving a warning. Let's see whether it's working or not. Okay. If you don't bother about the warning, let's see what will happen. So just I'm just refreshing one more time. One, two, three, whatever it is. So what should happen if you click on clear interval? It is working. It is working actually. If you see, it is working. Refresh, refresh. Let's go for count, because whenever set interval, it is just execute that set count after every 1,000 milliseconds, so that the count will change again. Then it will go for a re-render. It is working. So whenever I click on a clear interval, yes, it is clearing the interval, but it is clearly, it is not throwing an error. It is giving a warning. So, but there is a chance, because okay, in this situation, okay, we can manage, but in the long term, if we are going to build a large scale application, so it's not the right thing. So for that, we have another option. That is the best option. What he is suggesting? Hey, instead of storing into the local variable, it's better to store the things in useRef. Okay. So already we have decided that we are not going to use useState. Okay. UseState. Why? What is the problem with the use state, Varun?
It will re-render for every.
It will re-render. So for each and every rent, okay, whenever you do changes in the use state, it is going to re-render. That is a very costliest thing. Okay, very is a costliest thing, re-render. But we don't need re-renders. That's why we tried with a local variable. So with local variables also we have a problem. So it is clearly throwing an error. Okay, maybe that is not my React. What React is saying, if we lose that information, that is not my responsibility. So suppose by mistake, if by any chance you are re-rendering for any other purpose, but I'm not giving any guarantee that whether this information will be available for you after doing some re-renders in different ways. So for that, React came with another super important thing, that is called useRef. Okay. Yes, we should not re-render, right? So here they're providing an opportunity for us. You can store, because if you don't want to re-render, whenever you do changes to any variable or some information, it's better to store in a useRef. Okay, useRef is the hook. Okay, useRef is the hook. So we can solve this problem with the useRef. Okay, let's see what is useRef and how we can solve that one. Okay, some situations we can go with a local variable, but definitely with local variables also it will be a problem because those are simple JavaScript objects or variables, and whenever the React is just taking re-renders, it is clearly saying that maybe you will lost after each re-render. But sometimes maybe it's not, but there is a chance that you can lose your data. So that's why he's suggesting go with the useRef. Okay, go with the useRef. What is the specialty of a useRef means? Useref means it is not going to re-render. It is not going to re-render. Usestate is going to re-render, right? 10 times or 100 times. Suppose if you increase the count from 1 to 100, it is going to re-render 100 times. 100 times. 100 times. 100 times. So this useRef is not going to trigger the render. Okay, it is not going to trigger the render. It is not going to trigger the render. But if you store some information in the useRef, if you store some information in the useRef, that information is available throughout the re-renders. Okay, you can do re-render 100 times or 1000 times based on the state. But if you store some information in the useRef, we are not going to lose the data. You can access the same information after first render or second render, 100 renders, 1000 renders, doesn't matter. So this is a secret pocket for a component. So if you want to store any information, but you don't need to re-render whenever you do changes to that value, you're not interested to re-render, it's better to store that information in the ref. Okay, understood, Varun? What is the need of useRef?
Can you tell one more time, Raghu?
Yeah, it's simple, Varun. Whenever you so right, let me do one thing. Here the count is right. Count is there, right? So the count it will change. The value will change after every 1000 milliseconds. So and we need to display the latest value in the browser, right? For that we need a re-render. That much is clear.
Yeah.
For timer ID, we don't need to re-render, right?
No.
We don't need to re-render, but maybe in the future you need this value, right? Whenever you click on this clear interval button, you should able to access the timer ID, right? But the only
Yeah.
thing is we no need to trigger the re-render.
Okay.
Yeah, ఏం లేదు, సింపుల్ ఐ విల్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ ఇన్ తెలుగు. ఓకే, మీరు ఏదైనా ఒక వాల్యూని మీరు స్టోర్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నారు కాంపోనెంట్ లో, ఆ వాల్యూ చేంజ్ అయినప్పుడు రీరెండర్ అవ్వాలి అనుకోండి, అది స్టేట్ లో పెట్టుకోండి. ఓకే, సో ఏదో ఒక వాల్యూ స్టోర్ చేయాలనుకుంటున్నారు, బట్ యూ నో నీడ్ టు రీరెండర్. రీరెండర్ ని మీరు ట్రిగ్గర్ చేయాల్సిన పని లేదు, అప్పుడు మనం రెఫ్ లో స్టోర్ చేసుకోవాలి.
Okay, got it.
Got it? Yeah, I will explain one more time. So whenever if you want to store some information in the component and you need a re-render, why we need a re-render? Because you are displaying the count value, right? But you are not displaying the timer value, because timer value is same until because after incrementing 19 times or 20 times, 100 times, the timer ID is same. Once you attach the timer, even if you do 100 re-renders, the timer ID is same. For that, we don't need to store the timer ID in a state because we don't need re-render. We're not displaying the timer ID anywhere in the UI. So we should store in a secret place. That is the ref. Okay, let's do. We can do by practice. You can understand. So now we are going to create one ref. So useRef is another important hook. This is the default hook. Is provided by the React team. So instead of storing these things, what you need to do, first of all, just create a ref. So constant my timer ref, whatever it is, you can give any name, and you can say use ref, and default value just mention it is a null. Okay, by default the value of this is null. And now what I'm doing, okay, first we should understand, okay, what is the value in this my timer ref. Whenever you invoke use ref, Okay, what it is, what it will return. It is very important. So first of all, I'm just commenting this code. Just wait for a minute. First of all, let's see what is there in the ref. What is there in the my timer ref? Okay, what I'm doing here, I'm just putting like console.log. This is very very important. This is a special object. It will return one special object, my timer ref. Save it. Why it is throwing an error? Save it. So the counter is there. Okay, we are not doing any set interval now. Just okay, we are just checking what is there in that ref. So observe carefully. This is very very important. It is returning an object. It is returning an object, and it has one property that is called current. Okay, what it is returning? Ref. What is returning? Arun, it will always return an object, and it has a default property that is called current. Okay, and we have given a initial value as null, right? We have given initial value as null. Observe carefully. We have given a initial value as null. That's why it is storing null in that. That's it. Okay, correct. So now what we need to do, we want to store the interval. So let me uncomment this one again. Uncomment this one. So how to store that, the timer ID? So it is going to return the timer ID, right? So if you want to store, you should just store in that property. So here my timer ref dot current, store in that place. Okay, and clear interval. So same value, my timer ref dot current, my timer ref. Save it. So we see this is so this is a secret pocket. This is an object. This is an object. Observe carefully. This is an object. Object current, current, and default value. If you give a null, it will store null. If you give a zero, it will store zero. It will give an object, it will store object. If you store array, it will store array, whatever it is. So what I'm doing, once you set the interval, it is going to return the timer ID. So just store the timer ID in this object with this property, and you can use anywhere in your component. So now it is going to work. So let me refresh. So if you see current, it is changing, right? Observe carefully. But here it is showing 10 and it is showing 8, or maybe because of the speed. It is taking some time to render, right? So it is logging the details, and right now, just don't worry about this one. Just observe carefully. And after some time, if you want to clear interval,
No, actually, you kept that console.log upside, right?
yeah, outside.
Placing is also important, right?
Important, yeah. For now, just comment it, okay? Remove it. Okay, understood? Understood? So, not only this, okay, we have many advantages with the refs, because this is the first advantage. So, what is ref? So, just go to this documentation. It's very, very important, and it's very, very good documentation actually. So, useRef is a React hook that lets you reference a value that not needed for rendering. That's simple. If you want to store some value and you don't need to re-render, then it's, please store those values into refs. That's it. Okay. And usages. Okay, here referring a value with a ref, manipulating the DOM with a ref, avoiding recreating the ref content. A lot of things are there. So we understand the first simple advantage with some good example. So tomorrow we are going to learn how to take the reference to a DOM element, and what is the advantage of that. That we can learn tomorrow. Now tell me, Varun, understood or not?
Yeah, understood. Raghu.
So sometimes we can store in a local variable. For timer, it will work with the local variable also. But React is clearly throwing a warning that in suppose in re-renders, maybe there is a chance that we can lose that information because it's just a simple object. Of course, this is also a simple object, but React will remember this information. React will remember this ref information throughout all the renders. Okay, how it is going to remember the state information in all the renders, in the same way it is going to remember the value, but only thing is the difference is we are not going to re-render. And one more important thing, Varun, if you want to change the state, if you want to change the state, you are doing with a set count, right? Observed or not?
Yeah, Raghu.
We are not mutating, right?
Yeah.
But ref, we are directly updating the value. We no need to worry about the mutation or unmutation. Okay, immutability. Okay, how you are storing the information in the local variable, it's simple. So directly I'm updating the details. If you see my timer ref dot current is equal to, I'm just giving a reference. But if you want to save any information in the state, you need to go with the set state. Just tell me, Varun, why we need to use a extra method to update the state, and why we no need to bother about the immutability for references.
For reference, you told me now, guys. We need not to re-render
Yes, that's it.
every time.
Because yes, because if you store any information in the state, we need to re-render. Okay, how React knows that we need to re-render? Okay, whenever you call the set count, automatically React understand that okay, he has done some changes, so I need to calculate everything and I need to re-render. But reference, we anyway we no need re-render. That's why we no need to bother about the immutability. So this is the very important point. Maybe in interviews also they will check whether the students know about this concept or not. Okay, so please read the documentation and do practice and get ready for the next session. And tomorrow we are going to learn another advantage of ref. Okay, that's all for today and see you.